You're not taking me! I'm ready.
Welcome back to Horror Movies.
In a few seconds, you're going to listen to a frightening tale narrated by me. Fear awaits you. Watch out and take care. The episode begins with a flight attendant walking into a plane and preparing it for the incoming passengers. The flight attendant turns on the lights and lets the passengers enter the plane. As the passengers enter the plane, she checks their tickets and directs them to their seats. A young boy named Josh steps onto the plane, and the flight attendant, Brenda, welcomes him. She informs him that he's on the right plane and asks if he needs help finding his seat. Josh refuses, and as he walks away, he mentions that he's never been on a flight before. Josh sits beside a businessman named Vincent and tries to give Vincent a handshake, but Vincent leaves him hanging. Vincent informs Josh that he's on his way to an important business meeting. The lights on the plane suddenly flicker, and Josh gets scared. He asks Vincent if the lights flicker like that often, and Vincent tells him he has nothing to worry about. Josh lifts his arm and watches as it shakes. Vincent asks him what he's doing, and Josh informs him that it's a technique his dad taught him to calm himself when he's scared or stressed. He assures Josh that he'll get used to flying alone and eventually enjoy it because he'll have no one else to worry about on the plane. Josh overhears some passengers talking about how the flight crew loaded a coffin into the plane, and they make jokes about how a person could suddenly become luggage. As the men talk, Josh gets freaked out and mentions how creepy it is to be sitting right above a dead body. He then thinks it's cool, and Vincent informs him that it's disrespectful and the flight crew should have loaded the body privately to give the dead person some dignity. Meanwhile, an old lady named Claire steps into the plane, and Brenda welcomes her. Claire walks to her seat, and Josh stares at her and feels uncomfortable. She asks Josh not to be nervous, and Josh insists that he isn't. She then touches his hand and informs him that everything is happening as it should. Josh stares at Claire as she takes her seat, and Brenda announces the takeoff procedures the passengers should follow. Josh gets ready for takeoff, and he looks at Claire. He sees her staring at him, and he awkwardly looks away. The plane takes off, and the passengers begin their journey. Josh asks Vincent how long the flight is going to last, and Vincent asks if he's in a hurry to arrive at his destination. Josh mentions that he's not in a hurry to see his lame dad and his dad's new girlfriend. Vincent wonders why Josh doesn't like his dad, and Josh informs him that his dad and mom divorced, so he lives with his mom. Vincent realizes that Josh is having a hard time because of his parents' divorce. Josh wonders why his dad can't leave him and his mom alone and move on. Vincent informs him that moving on from your ex-wife and child is not easy. Josh asks Vincent if he is divorced, and Vincent says you have to get married before you can get divorced. Vincent mentions how his work keeps him busy, and he doesn't like being tied down by anyone. Brenda walks by, and Vincent tries calling her, but she ignores him. Vincent gets upset and blames his predicament on not paying for a first-class seat. Later, the passengers sleep, and Josh wakes up because of a thunderstorm. He looks around and sees as the other passengers are fast asleep. Josh notices that Claire is awake and knitting. He cleans some drool from his face, and as he looks at Claire, she briefly transforms into the Grim Reaper as lightning strikes. Josh gets terrified as he looks away, and as he looks back, he sees that Claire is normal. Josh raises his hand and tries to calm himself, but his hand continues to shake. Vincent, still awake, notices that Josh is frightened and asks him what's wrong. Josh says he's fine, but Vincent points out that he's staring at his hand again. Josh asks Vincent if he's ever had a freaky dream that couldn't be real but feels like reality. Vincent informs Josh he has, and Josh tells him about how Claire transformed into the Grim Reaper for a moment. Josh describes the Grim Reaper to Vincent, and Vincent informs him that it doesn't exist. Josh insists that the Grim Reaper was there and continues to describe it. Vincent asks him to calm down because he'll scare the other passengers. He suggests that Josh gets up and stretches his legs so he can feel better. Josh gets annoyed as he stands up and realizes he should have kept the information to himself. He walks to the back of the plane, and as he walks past Claire, he speeds up. Vincent watches him as he walks away, noticing that Claire is staring at him. He looks away and suddenly gets uncomfortable. Josh stands behind a curtain and stares at Claire. Vincent suddenly appears behind him and startles him. He informs Josh that Claire started staring at him as Josh walked away and made him very uncomfortable. Vincent begins to think that Claire, who appears to be a sweet old lady, is a soul-sucking monster, and they decide to see what she's doing. They watch her as she continues knitting, and Vincent insists she's just an old lady. Claire suddenly stares at Josh and Vincent, and she briefly transforms into the Grim Reaper. Josh and Vincent get frightened, and Vincent is in disbelief. They wonder what the Grim Reaper is doing on the plane, and Vincent suggests it will take down the plane and eliminate all the passengers. Josh remembers the coffin and tells Vincent that the Grim Reaper is there to collect the person's soul. He also suggests they find the person and warn them so they can escape before the Grim Reaper gets to them. Vincent informs Josh that it's too dangerous to mess with the Grim Reaper, the Angel of Death. Vincent suggests that he and Josh return to their seats and lay low until the Grim Reaper finishes what it wants to do on the plane. He insists that Josh returns to his seat, and Josh walks past Claire. Josh turns around and waits for Vincent to emerge, but Vincent suddenly appears in his seat. Josh wonders how Vincent got there before he did and realizes that Vincent is the soul of the dead person that the Grim Reaper is searching for. Josh informs Vincent that he's a ghost, and Vincent gets upset. The plane suddenly faces turbulence, and the pilot asks all the passengers to fasten their seat belts. Josh realizes he's been sitting above Vincent's corpse the entire time. Brenda walks to Josh and instructs him to return to his seat. Josh asks for another seat, and Brenda informs him that he has 2 free seats to himself. He realizes that Brenda can't see Vincent, and Josh sees Vincent as a corpse. He hesitantly sits down, and Brenda walks away. As Josh sits down, he informs Vincent that Brenda can't see him, and Vincent gets angry and says he's not a ghost. As he raises his voice, the plane's electrical system sparks and scares all the passengers. Josh tries to convince Vincent that he's a ghost, but Vincent refuses. He asks Vincent to hold out his hand just like he does when he's nervous. Vincent holds out his hand, and Josh tries to place his hand on Vincent's hand, but his hand goes through Vincent. Vincent realizes he's a ghost, and Josh realizes he won't be able to calm himself down by staring at his hand again. Vincent remembers how he died and how he got hit by a truck while driving. The lights of the ambulance that found him flash on his face. Vincent recounts how he worked extremely hard in his life to enjoy himself and buy all the things he wanted. As he talks, Josh sees Claire stand up, and she walks to them. As she walks, she transforms into the Grim Reaper, and Josh informs Vincent that he has other things to do than complain about his life. Vincent wonders why she wants to take his soul at that moment, and Josh informs him that a dead person has to know they're dead before the Grim Reaper can take their soul. Claire stretches her hand out to Vincent, but he refuses to go with her. He continues claiming not to be dead, and as he revolts, the plane's electrical system worsens, and one of the plane's engines begins to fail. He then appears beside Claire and refuses to let her take him. Josh realizes that the plane's issues occur anytime Vincent gets emotional or resists the truth. He informs Vincent and reminds him they can't mess with the Grim Reaper. Claire agrees with Josh and insists that Vincent follows her, so the plane doesn't crash. Vincent appears in another part of the plane and resembles a corpse. He informs Josh that he doesn't care if the plane crashes because he's already dead, and the plane's situation worsens. Claire stares at Vincent, and all the passengers begin to panic as they put on their seat belts. Brenda announces to the passengers that the pilot has diverted the plane and they'll be going to the nearest airport for an emergency landing. She then advises them to remain in their seats. Josh returns to his seat, and Vincent appears beside him. Josh begs him to go with Claire, but he refuses. He then begs Claire to leave Vincent, but Claire informs him that things don't work that way. Vincent suddenly appears beside her and asks her how things work. He then begins yelling at her because she's knitting, and the plane starts to shake. The passengers begin to scream as they panic, and Brenda tries to calm them down, but the speakers stop working. She informs the passengers that they'll have to remain calm so the pilot can focus on getting them out of danger. Brenda instructs the passengers to remain seated, fasten their seat belts, and stay in a brace position. Josh asks Vincent if he wants all the passengers to die and informs him that he's already had a nice life. Vincent tells Josh about all the money he made and the cars he had but says he always felt incomplete. Vincent regrets not connecting to anyone when he was alive and informs Josh he didn't have any real friends. Josh realizes that Vincent pushed everyone in his life away because he didn't want them to let him down. Vincent asks him how he knows so much about his situation, and Josh compares Vincent's situation to the relationship between him and his dad. Josh realizes that he's been too hard on his dad since the divorce and realizes he's been selfish. Vincent assures him he can change because he's young. Josh informs Vincent that he can still change by saving the entire plane and going with the Grim Reaper. Vincent realizes that Josh is right, and he decides to follow Claire. He appears beside her and tells her he's ready to go with her. Claire gets up with a smile on her face and directs Vincent to the back of the plane. Vincent sees a light shine on him, and Josh watches as he walks into it. As Vincent walks into the light, the plane's electricity begins to function correctly, and the engines start to work properly. The passengers celebrate as the plane stabilizes, and Josh breathes a sigh of relief. The plane lands at its destination, and Brenda informs Josh that his dad is waiting for him inside. As he walks with her, he stops to have a conversation with Claire and tells her that he knows why he's the only one who could see the Grim Reaper. Claire smiles at him as he walks away. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.